wanted to stay and explore, but Calpurnia propelled me up the aisle ahead of her. At the church door, while she paused to talk with Zebo and his family, Jem and I chatted with Reverend Sykes. I was bursting with questions, but decided I would wait and let Calpurnia answer them. "We were especially glad to have you all here," said Reverend Sykes. "The church has no better friend than your daddy." My curiosity burst. "Why were you all taking up collection for Tom Robinson's wife?" "Didn't you hear why?" asked Reverend Sykes. "Helen's got 3 little ones and she can't go out to work." "Why can't she take 'em with her, Reverend?" I asked. It was customary for field negroes with tiny children to deposit them in whatever shade there was while their parents worked. Usually the babies sat in the shade between 2 rows of cotton. Those unable to sit were strapped papoose style on their mothers' backs or resided in extra cotton bags. Reverend Sykes hesitated. "To tell you the truth, Miss Jean Louise, Helen's finding it hard to get to work these days. When it's picking time, I think Mr. Link Dees'll hire her." "Why not, Reverend?" Before he could answer, I felt Calpurnia's hand on my shoulder. At its press, I said, "We thank you for letting us come." Jem echoed me, and we made our way homeward. "Cal, I know Tom Robinson's in jail, and he's done something awful, but why won't folks hire Helen?" I asked. Calpurnia, in her navy voile dress and tub of a hat, walked between Jem and me. "It's because of what folks say Tom's done," she said. "Folks aren't anxious to have anything to do with any of his family." "Just what did he do, Cal?" Calpurnia sighed. "Old Mr. Bob Ewell accused him of raping his girl and had him arrested and put in jail." "Mr. Ewell?" My memory stirred. "Does he have anything to do with those Ewells that come every day, first day of school, and then go home?" "Why," Atticus said, "they were absolute trash. I never heard Atticus talk about folks the way he talked about the Ewells. He said, 'Yeah, those are the ones.'" "Well, if everybody in Maycomb know what kind of folks the Ewells are, they'd be glad to hire Helen." "What's rape, Cal?" "It's something you'll have to ask Mr. Finch about," she said. "He can explain it better than I can. You all hungry? The Reverend took a long time unwinding this morning. He's not usually so tedious." "He's just like our preacher," said Jem. "But why do you all sing hymns that way?" "Linin'?" she asked. "Is that what it's called?" "Yeah, it's called linin'. They've done it that way as long as I can remember." Jem said it looked like if they could save the collection money for a year, and they could get some hymn books. Calpurnia laughed. "Wouldn't do any good," she said. "They can't read." "Can't read?" I asked. "All those folks?" "That's right," Calpurnia nodded. "Can't but about 4 folks in First Purchase read, and I'm one of 'em." "Where'd you go to school, Cal?" asked Jem. "Nowhere. Now let me see. Who taught me my letters? It was Miss Maudie Atkinson's aunt, old Miss Buford." "Are you that old?" "I'm older than Mr. Finch even," Calpurnia grinned. "Not sure how much, though. We started remembering one time, trying to figure out how old I was. I can remember back just a few years more than he can, so I'm not much older, when you take off the fact that men can't remember as well as women." "What's your birthday, Cal?" "I just have it on Christmas. It's easier to remember that way. I don't have a real birthday." "But Cal," Jem protested, "you don't look near as old as Atticus." "Colored folks don't show their ages so fast," she said. "Maybe because they can't read. Cal, did you teach Zebo?" "Yeah, Mr. Jem. There wasn't a school even when he was a boy. I made him learn, though." Zebo was Calpurnia's eldest son. If I'd ever thought about it, I would have known that Calpurnia was of mature years. Zebo had half-grown children, but then I'd never thought about it. "Did you teach him out of the primer like us?" I asked. "No, I made him get a page of the Bible every day. And there was a book Miss Buford taught me out of. Oh, I bet you don't know where I got it," she said. We didn't know. Calpurnia said, "Your granddaddy Finch gave it to me." "Were you from the Landing?" Jem asked. "You never told us that." "I certainly am, Mr. Jem. Grew up down there between the Buford place and the Landing. I've spent all my days working for the Finches or the Bufords. And I moved to Maycomb when your daddy and your mama married." "What was the book, Cal?" I asked. "Blackstone's Commentaries." Jem was thunderstruck. "You mean you taught Zebo out of that?" "Why, yes, sir, Mr. Jem." Calpurnia timidly put her fingers to her mouth. "They were the only books I had. Your granddaddy said Mr. Blackstone wrote fine English." "That's why you don't talk like the rest of them," said Jem. "The rest of who?" "The rest of colored folks." "Cal, but you talk like they did in church." That Calpurnia led a modest double life never dawned on me. The idea that she had a separate existence outside our household was a novel one, to say nothing of her having the command of 2 languages. "Cal," I asked, "why do you talk nigger talk to your folks when you know it's not right?" "Well, in the first place, I'm black." "That doesn't mean you have to talk that way when you know better," said Jem. Calpurnia tilted her hat and scratched her head, then pressed her hat down carefully over her ears. "It's right hard to say," she said. "Suppose you and Scout talk colored folks talk at home. It'd be at a place, wouldn't it? Now what if I talk white folks talk at church, and with my neighbors? They'd think I was putting on airs to beat Moses." "But Cal, you know better," I said. "It's not necessary to tell all you know. It's not ladylike, and in the second place, folks don't like to have somebody around knowing more than they do. It aggravates them. You're not going to change any of them by talking right. They got to want to learn themselves. And when they don't want to learn, there's nothing you can do but keep your mouth shut or talk their language." "Cal, Can I come see you sometimes? She looked down at me. See me, honey. You see me every day. Out to your house, I said. Sometime after work? Atticus can get me. Anytime you want to, she said. We'd be glad to have you. We were on the sidewalk by the Radley place. Look at the porch yonder, Jem said. I looked over at the Radley place, expecting to see its phantom occupant sunning himself in the swing. The swing was empty. I mean our porch, said Jem. I looked down the street. Enamored, upright, and uncompromising Aunt Alexandra was sitting in a rocking chair exactly as if she'd sat there every day of her life.